On this episode, we're going to review what happened on NWA Powerrr. As you know, a lot of questions are being asked about the relationship between Aldis and Latimer. We also got some rivalries between both the Hex Girls and, of course, what Lady Frost cost last week. And not to mention, certain things are taking place. We got, of course, a 13 stack matches on AEW Dark. Also, what happened in NXT 2.0, with of course the NXT tag team titles being on the line, and also some interesting rivalries and stories being built up. Also, going to review a past event by IWA Mid-South, which took place this past July, and also some news updates regarding former WWE wrestlers, and of course, tournaments are being returned, and both of them are part of the Bushiroad brand. So, let's get started with another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. Now, I did mention NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. As you know, a lot of questions are being asked. So, Kyle Davis called out Camille because he wanted the inside scoop about what is going on between Latimer and Aldis. As you know, last week, Latimer and Adonis seems like they were on the verge of beating up Tim Storm, but out of the blue, Nick Aldis decided to intervene. Now, this was a very unusual. Now, Tim Storm did stated that this was something that he did not expect from him. As you know, this wasn't the first time that, of course, Nick Aldis turned on Tim Storm, but it happened. And of course, her beef with Melina is still being called into question. Apparently, she's not too threatened by her. She is willing to admit she's a legend, but she's not threatened by her to face her for the NWA World Women's title. And of course, the next interview, we got Trevor Murdoch and the Pope. Now, Trevor Murdoch is addressing about what took place last week with Jax Dane. As you know, Jax Dane won the championship series, and he has a right for a title shot. However, Trevor Murdoch did stated that it looked more premature out of his part. But however, he is not the only one. Even the Pope himself, in fact, has that title shot since he won the championship series. Now, it's still unclear when he will challenge for the 10 pounds of gold, but he will address that in the following week. Now, our first match is a NWA Lucha Scramble match. We have three teams. We got Ill Begotten by Yuma and, of course, Ross Freeman versus Slice Boogie and Marshe Rocket versus the current NWA World Tag Team Champions La Rebelión, Bestia 666, and Mecha Wolf. Now, this is a non-title match, but it was great. Using Lucha rules in this match, it worked. It was first Yuma was eliminated, and then of course it was Slice Boogie and everybody else. And of course it was Bestia Mecha Wolf that was able to survive this match, allowing themselves to win. However, if he would have lost, one of these two teams would have got a title opportunity for the tag team title. Now, our next interview, we have, of course, the very unusual duo, Aaron Stevens and Kratos. Now, many people thought they should have just broken up, but Kratos decided to stick around. Now, he is trying to light a fire into Aaron Stevens. Like, he wants him to bring out that killer instinct that he should be bringing out. Now, the real question is, when will that happen? I don't know, but we will follow this even further. Now our next match is of course Judas along with Sinister Mister taking on James Storm. This was a very unusual match for me because if you guys seen Judas, he's a huge dude, but James Storm was able to finish him off with the super kick and beat him that way. Now I would have assumed Judas was like a monster that could not be killed, it's like a new version of Kane, but no. It looks like James Storm won that one by the super kick. Now we see an interview, this time run by May, interviewing Kylie Ray and Lady Frost. It appears that Kylie Ray is willing to say Lady Frost is the coolest person, and Lady Frost was like, okay, I like you. But however, it appears that Lady Frost in problem troubles have caught up with her. Allison Kay hasn't forgotten when she interfered in that match with Genocide, and it appears that she wants to put her in the match. However, Kylie Ray even put herself in the triple threat. However, I think that it's played out pretty well. As you know, Kylie Ray possibly just wanted to get involved, but however, she was the one that put Lady Frost in the Fuji armbar and forced her to tap out. Now, the next interview, we have Hawks, Erie, Luke, and PJ, and of course, their opponents in the tag tournament, Sal Renara and Nims, talking about what's gonna take place, and they were excited how this match. However, they were interrupted by none other than Tyrus, Black G's, Jordan Clearwater, and Austin Idol. However, the reason they decided to come out and even had Kyle Davis to take a hike, they brought in May. Apparently, there have been complaints that Tyrus is not putting the NWA television title on the line. He feels that but however, we do know one person who wants that title, and that is, of course, Zion, the Masked Wrestler. Now, our main event is Tim Storm teaming up with Nick Aldis, taking on Tom Latimer and Chris Adonis. It was a good match, but however, it was Nick Aldis that picked up the victory, but apparently the friendship between Latimer and Aldis has ended into violence, and of course, they pile drive them twice, one on the mat and the other on the chair. So this is going to be a very interesting rivalry between now two former friends, now becoming enemies. As you know, Latimer and Adonis, in previous times we witnessed, they have been frustrated that they haven't got their opportunities, especially when it came with the tag team titles. But we'll see what happens down the line when Nick Aldis returns to get his revenge on Tom Latimer and his betrayal for what he has done. Okay, so we got AEW Dark with 13 stacked matches. So it opened up with the Pinnacles, consistent of Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR, along with Sean Spears and Wardlow, no Tully Blanchard, taking on Austin Green, Dean Alexander, Baron Black, and of course Aaron Fry. It was a very interesting match because, as you know, the Pinnacle are one of the most dominant factions we've seen, and they played their part pretty well. And Sean Spears was the one that picked up the victory for his team. The next one is the creepy, came out of hell, Abaddon, taking on Valentine Rossi. And you can guess by Abaddon's unorthodox ways of winning her matches, it did allow her to win, and she still creeps people out. Then we got the Acclaim, Bowens, and Caster taking on Michael Martinez and Very Morales. As you know, they're back into their ways, acting up that they have the right to diss anybody that they want, but it was Caster that picked up the victory for his team. Next up, we got Sunny Kiss and Kai Hero. Sunny Kiss has a new attitude, basically not fun person. He's still dealing with the whole fallout between him and Joey Janela when he stabbed him in the back in Jacksonville, but now it's time that he's taking things a lot more serious than he should be. Our next match we have is Chris Statlander taking on Zeta Lang If you guys know who she is, then you guys are in for a treat. It was a good match. I think it was pretty good seeing Zaylang, but however, it was Chris Statlander that put her in the Big Bang Theory and lights out. Goodbye, Grace, and that is it. She won her match. Next up, we got women's action. Again, we got Sky Blue taking on Maddie Ronkowski. Now, I'm not 100% sure about Sky Blue if she's an official member of the roster. Now, I know many fans would love to see her in. Maddie Ronkowski, I know she's been evolving herself in both Dark and Elevation time and time again, but it's still unclear on her part. But Sky Blue, she is a fantastic wrestler. I know many fans probably love to see her in AEW full time, but we will see then. But it was her when she picked up the victory, and of course, it was great to see. Next up, we got Eddie Kingston taking on Anthony Henry, or as we know him in WWE NXT, Asher Hale. I have to say, one great match. I love how Anthony Henry was dealing his business with Eddie Kingston. I have to say, I don't know if AEW are looking into him. I feel he's one of those guys you definitely got to pay attention. He was very impressive on his debut in AEW Dark. But Eddie Kingston was the one who came up with the victory when he did the back fist and Goodnight Grace. He won the match. Next up, we got the Gun Club. Austin, Colton, and Billy. Excuse me. Taking on Rosario Grillo, Hunter Knott, and Cameron Stewart. As you can guess, the chemistry with the Gun Clubs and the coordination they've been doing has been very popular. They won their match. How you probably guessed how they do it. Next up, we have Diamante taking on Santana Garrett. Now, a week ago, Santana Garrett was given the welcome mat by Diamante, but of course, this match was great. I have to say, I would love to see Santana Garrett being in AEW full time. Not because I say so, because she's amazing. You know, if you guys ever seen her in WoW, that is something that's been going on. But we'll see what happens then. But however, it was Diamante that picked up the victory. As you know, she has been working on AEW Dark and Elevation many times. But I'm not sure if she's full time with AEW, but I'll figure that out at some point. Next up, we got the Wingmen, Peter Avalon and Ryan Meneth, along with JD Drake and Cesar Bononi, taking on the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman, along with Julia Hart. It was a good match, I have to say. It was showing how the popularity with the Varsity Blondes, and I would not have imagined for a long time Brian Pillman becoming a tag team specialist, but it's working for him, and it gave them a lot of momentum when he pulled off the lariat, but also Griff Garrison put the pinfall, and it was over right then. Next up, we got Daniel Garcia along with 2.0 taking on Eric Lockhart. Now, Daniel Garcia is impressive. I'm surprised AEW hasn't signed him, and not to mention he's becoming good friends with Lulu Pencil. But I have to say, Daniel Garcia is very impressive, very an interesting wrestler to follow. I know many fans would love to see him in a major promotion. He has appeared in many of the independents, including New Japan Strong, but AEW seems like the perfect home for him. But it was him with that submission move that allowed him to win. I was impressed by that. Next up, we got Serpentico along with Luther taking on Marco Stunt. It was a good match and a fun one, but it was also a major upset by Serpentico pinning Marco Stunt. I was shocked, but it gave the perfect momentum for Serpentico, and any as you can guess, Luther will try to do whatever it takes to help him. Now, our main event is Nick Camarado along with the Factory taking on Orange Cassidy, and the Best Friends being by his side. As you know, this is one of those matches where can the Superman punch knock out Nick Camarado? The answer to that question is yes. He did it at least maybe 2 or 3 times until he finally gave out, and I'm assuming QT Marshall is not a happy camper, but I can't wait to see what's going to happen more next week on AEW Dark. So right now, let's keep moving forward with an NXT 2.0. Alrighty, so we got NXT 2.0. It opened up with Mandy Rose being accompanied by Toxic Attraction taking on Ember Moon. Now, Ember Moon has been in a losing streak, but I think they're building up right now for the chance that she could change into a heel. It's still unclear on that part. But Mandy Rose is now becoming more impressive as a brunette, but also becoming a heel as well. So that is something we gotta pay attention. As you know, we would have loved to see her win bigger things in the main roster, but right now, I think maybe we're seeing a side that we should have seen long ago with her. But this time, we'll see what happens then. But she did win her match, and we'll see what Amber Moon is going to do in the future. Now, as you know, the rivalry between Legado del Fantasma and Hit Row is hitting to an odd time. As you know, Hit Row made their appearance got drafted into SmackDown. Now, Legado, especially Santos Escobar, is calling them a bunch of cowards because they ran off with to SmackDown. No, they were invited. However, San, Swerve has no problem taking the title with him, but he did state it that he will put it on the line, or it's on SmackDown. So it makes no difference. As you know, Santos Escobar is so hell bent to get that title back because it represents Mexico, and that's what he wants. And of course, will he get it? I don't know, because that's what I've been questioning. Since now that Hit Row has been drafted into SmackDown, what does this mean for the North American title if it's always been on NXT? Now, for me, I feel if that's what the case, there is a possibility that we could see that Swerve could drop the title and allow for Santos to win it. So it's still unclear on that part, but we'll get to that when that day comes. Now, as you know, this whole thing between the fight between Odyssey Jones and LA Knight has now taken, but however, someone decided to get themselves involved for no apparent reason, and that is Andre Chase, because I think he hasn't forgotten what Odyssey Jones did to him. If you guys remember, he forced him to sit down on the day of Index's wedding, but this time I know for a fact Odyssey Jones is not going to take this lightly. Now, Cameron Grimes, as you know, he is very happy, very cheerful, but he seems he's looking for love. But however, Pete Dunne and Rich Holland think he's a joke, but he's out looking for someone. There's nothing wrong with that. But we'll see if that ever happens. Now, Kyle O'Reilly, as you know, he's been saved twice by Von Wagner. Now, as you know, Kyle O'Reilly still has trust issues because of what happened with Undisputed Era. Wagner understands it, but we'll see what happens then. Now, Tommaso Ciampa decided to address the entire NXT universe about his plans. As you know, Braun Baker, he is now being considered to be the next upcoming star in NXT 2.0. So he posted himself on Halloween Havoc on the 26th of October to face Tommaso Ciampa for the title, which is going to be huge. However, it appears someone thought he deserves to be part of that, and that part was Joe Gacy. So he did stated that I want to be part of it. But Tommaso Ciampa made it clear that he will pick this as a one-on-one, but he'll add him if he challenges him in a match where if he wins, he gets a shot, but if he loses, he doesn't. Now, the most funniest thing moment is Indy Hartwell is back from her honeymoon, and she was hanging out with her friend, Persia. They accidentally stumble upon Tian Sha, and of course, Mei Ying is not happy with that, but it happened. Now, Ike Manjaro was set to face against Joe Gacy. This was unusual. It was good. However, I don't know what storyline they're building up. Joe Gacy, after he beat Ike Manjaro, he picked him up and gave him a hug. I don't know if he's transforming into someone else. I don't know. But It seems interesting, but however, during the post match, he had received an unexpected guest, and that is um, Parker Barrooks. If you guys know him, he is the new type of Brock Lesnar. It appears he has his eyes set on Joe Gacy, but it's still unclear what's going on. Now, this next match is between Cora Jade and Frankie Monet. This is very interesting to see Cora Jade in because I don't know, she kind of has this punk rock looking skater girl, but I did not expect her to win the match against Frankie Monet. But I think they want to build her up, and I think it was a good move. I mean, she is very interesting to follow, but I felt Frankie Monet should have won, but it didn't happen. But I have to say, Cora Jade really was impressive. Now, our next interview is MSK, as they are fully aware that this is going to be one tough match in a fatal four-way match for the NXT titles. They were confronted by Grizzled Young Veterans, and then they made it clear they're going to turn this into elimination match. It sounds good. But they were in a brawl with Grizzled Young Veterans and the other members involved in the main event. Now, Pete Dunne, along with Rich Holland, ended up facing Cameron Grimes, but you can guess Cameron Grimes lost big time with a guy like Pete Dunne, and it goes bad. But Kyle O'Reilly tried to give him a piece of his medicine. He got beat up, but Von Wagner did not show up because Kyle O'Reilly said, "I don't need your help." Next up, of course, we have Malik Blade taking on the debut of Tony D'Angelo. It was an impressive match with the debut of Tony D'Angelo. I was impressed. I just don't know what else they're going to put in, but I'm excited with this. But he actually won the match. Excuse me. Now we get to Mei Yin with Boa taking on Indy Hartwell. It was a good match. A very tough battle for Indy Hartwell, but she was able to pull it off. I was like surprised, and she did it. I was hoping Dex Loomis was going to show up, but no. We'll see what happens then. Now, Raquel Gonzalez, who's now been dealing with the invasion of Toxic Attraction, tried to address what happened. And of course, Toxic Attraction showed up out of the blue, tried to get their message across, but however, they were intervened by none other than the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Io Shirai, and of course, Zoe Starks. But of course, their little thingy could not, we don't know for sure. They could last, as you know. Toxic Attraction is a threat, but however, both Starks and Shirai have to deal with, of course, Indy Hartwell and Persia in order they want the tag team titles, but we'll see what happens then. Now, Von Wagner, who had helped Kyle O'Reilly many times, that stated that they put themselves in a tag match, whether if Kyle O'Reilly likes it or not, he said he'll have his back. Now let's get to the NXT Tag Team Titles 4-way elimination match. The first team that was eliminated was Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then later we had Grizzled Young Veterans, and then Jensen and Briggs. I have to say this was a perfect match to have Briggs and Jensen be the last. Excuse me, but it was a good one. However, at post match, after MSK won and retained the title, they were viciously attacked by Imperium, who want to prove they're saying that they need to respect the match. I mean, they fought guys like them, but we'll see how that goes with them. I'm kind of excited to see who's going to be the lucky contenders to challenge for these titles. But we'll see when that day comes, hopefully soon. Alright, so I'm going to review this past event from July 22nd by IWA Mid-South. This is called the Line of Opportunity. This was one of those events that you may have not heard. It's called IWA Mid-South. The first match is ZDP along with Ben Sharin taking on Pompano Joe. It was a very impressive match. However, it was Pompano Joe that picked up the victory against ZDP, but ZDP and his manager didn't take it too lightly, so they decided to beat him down some more. Next up, Ben Shirini actually went back to get another of his clients. That person is none other than Corey Storm taking on Jay-Z Rotten. Um, it was a very interesting match. Very, to say Corey is very talented, but he plays a good heel in this one. But it did allow him to win his match easily. Then the next up we have is Noah Hossman taking on Larry D. It was amazing with Larry D getting a lot of the powerhouses involved, and I have to say it was great to see him again. But will they ever see them on Impact? Well, hopefully so. But Larry D was impressive with his victory on this one. Our next match is Jake Chris and Austin Carte. They were about to disqualify themselves. First, it was Jake Chris, but Austin used one of those spray stuff onto what's his name? To Jake Chris, and he disqualified himself. I don't know if this is of a plot, but it was kind of crazy. Next up we have is Billy Tipton taking on Davey Richards. Nice match, great technical style. It was amazing to see that, but it was Davey Richards that picked up the victory for his team. Now we get to the IWA Mid-South World Championship. We have Matt Diesel and versus Logan James. Wow, it was great, but however, it was Logan James that retained the title, and I'm like, wow, pretty good. But our next up is the number one contendership for the IWA Mid-South World title. We have, of course, Kevin Giza versus Tyler Matrix, but that match ended in a double pin. So basically, it's kind of crazy, but we'll see what's going to happen down the line when we see if there's going to be a rematch from this one or we're just going to see a triple threat. Well, I don't know. But for now, let's move on with some news updates. Alright, so we got some news updates. First things first, we got Stardom. They just announced on their Twitter page the return of the 11th Goddesses Tag League. Now, if you guys aren't familiarized with this particular tag league, this is one of their tag team tournaments for the Goddesses of Stardom titles. I did not think of this at all because basically Tam Nakano hinted it out. As you know, everybody's going to be involved. Don't know in what factions could play out. I can see Mina Shirakawa and Unagi being one. I know Konami can team up with anybody. It depends on. Right now, there's still no details who's going to participate in the Goddesses of Tag League. Now, keep in mind, the Tag League is in fact a point-based system. There is no elimination. We'll give them time to see how many points they can get. Now, speaking of tournaments, New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced the return of their tournament, World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors. It's going to kick off on 13th of November at Korakuen Hall. Now, one day we're going to have the Best of the Super Junior. The next day, World Tag League. So they're going to be rotating the entire time. And it's going to finish on the 15th of December. Now, whoever wins these tournaments will get a title shot at Wrestle Kingdom, similar to what we got for the G1 coming up. Well, hopefully we're getting close to the end, but there is still no details on who's participating. While this event will end in Sumo Hall, and I'm very excited for that. Now, as you guys may or may not have been aware, there's been a lot of talk about former WWE wrestlers Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, where they're going to end up. Now, some of you were saying they could be in AEW. However, it's just been told and reported that they turned down AEW and they're heading to Impact. Now, some of you saying, why Impact? Well, anything, I don't know. but I feel maybe they just don't want to overshadow some of the younger wrestlers that are signing, and that would make sense. But frankly, I don't think I'm bothered with them going to Impact. I mean, at least they'll be somewhere on TV. That's all that matters. But it's still no indications when they will be. How do I say this? Um, be debuting. But however, we do know in AEW, there's been a lot of talk about the Joker, but that's another conversation for another time. But for now, I think that's how we're going to end it right here. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this episode, me reviewing, of course, NWA Powerrr, AEW Dark, NXT 2.0, and IWA Mid-South. Coming up, we have AEW Dynamite, two events by Pro Wrestling Noah, the Up to Emotion 2021, and of course, PWG Pro Wrestling Georgia for Blood Roots that took place back in June. I'm excited to review some of the past events, but let's just go what we got right now. For now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.